Welcome back to Vans to Villas. We are here today with the Coachmen Galleria here at Giant RV in Downey, California. This is a Mercedes Sprinter van chassis turned into a Class B RV by Coachmen. So let's start right away at the entryway. This model has an integrated screen door, all spring assisted, so it goes right back in. It's a very wide entrance, no problem getting in. Has this extra step added in. Let's go inside. Right away you notice that these are facing backwards. These are captain's chairs. Not all of these RVs have this feature where they rotate around, but it's very, very helpful. The driver's seat, as you can see, has a very nice feature where it turns into a bit of an office right here. This, especially if you're someone who works remotely, if you want to live in this full time, this is an excellent feature. Also, if you're someone who is going on vacation but still has emails, stuff to keep up with, this is perfect. Over here, this one's nice if you just want to hang out. Maybe you want to, eat food while you're here. Let's turn them both around. There's a lever right down there. You just push that and rotate it right around, and then clicks into place. And there you go, nice and safe. This one's a bit far forward, so I'm gonna move it back, which I believe you can do in a powered way, but since the truck is not actually on, that's not currently enabled. Also, up front, we have one of the new Infotainment Systems with this nice big screen and piano black trim right there. Like all these Mercedes chassis, you have very nice premium everything. So coming from the front here, moving back just slightly, we have these nice pockets up here, which is perfect if you have road maps or like phone accessories or whatever you want to carry. This whole area is open, which a lot of these, this varies a lot in designs, whether they have it open or not. This seems to be just right what they got from Mercedes. This is just the factory headliner carpeting. Also, down under here, you have storage, which is a nice use of space. It's curved out of the way enough that you're able to have your legs here, no problem, and your feet fit under there pretty nicely. So you can use this quite comfortably, but still make use of the space. Of course, it's also worth mentioning you have a TV here that pulls out. This is especially good if you want to connect your computer and have a monitor in place, or if you want to use it as a TV, perhaps. Up here, this is where everything happens. You have solar on this one, so you can turn that on or off. You can disconnect it and reconnect your battery. You can turn everything on and off, including Wi-Fi and stuff like that. This is definitely made for the modern era where you have things like Wi-Fi and solar, which you wouldn't have had in older RVs. Also, they made a nice little use of the space here, which is always good. Close that down. It doesn't seem to actually lock in place, which is interesting. So if you did, this one doesn't matter so much since it's mostly the electronics, but for ones that are more storage oriented, if you had things, there might be a risk of them falling out. Down here, we have more storage. This is very nice because it all rolls out and sucks back in. A little bit powerful how it's pulls stuff back in. Might be a little bit nicer once it's laden down the stuff. Close that up. And then we come over here to the kitchen. This is a very nicely equipped kitchen. It only has one burner, a nice induction burner right there, but it seems to be pretty large. I think you can still do a lot with it. Over here, like many of these RVs, they have a cover for the sink. This one's interesting because it actually has slats in it, so you can, I'm not exactly sure quite why, but I think it allows things to vent that are in there and dry out, and also if you were to accidentally turn this on, you're not just spilling immediately on the floor. This pops right out. Definitely a stronger, more residential feeling material right there. Water's already obviously empty or off on this unit, but you can see it's a nice sink. It's not crazy. I don't know if I'd want to do a ton of dishes in there, but it's usable. A feature I really like is this little spice rack here. That's a really nice thing when you're on the road. Being able to have some fun spices that remind you of home. Also, it's worth mentioning this is a very premium feeling sink, all stainless steel, looks really nice and is sleek. One of these features that I've seen a lot on these newer RVs, which I believe is actually straight from the tiny home community, is this sort of ratcheted paper towel holder. This is really nice because when you go and pull down on your paper towels, you don't go pull tons of them out at once. It helps slow it down and help you only pull just what you need, which is a very nice feature. It's definitely a bit cramped in here, but not too bad. Up here, very similar to the ones before. This has a nice light in it, which I quite appreciate. And same kind of simple carpeted material. Have their contact if you want to contact the factory. If there's any problem with your RV. Actually, this would be a good chance to check how strong it is on the inside. I think it's okay for most things you'd carry, but since it seems to be pretty strongly damped right at that end bit. It also seems to have a bit of a soft close feature there, as you can see. I would still be worried more if you had things like cans or heavier stuff, or maybe luggage. If you had maybe your camera bag or computer bag up there or something like that, there could be a slight risk of it falling out. We'll put this back in place. It's a nice streamlined look once it's in. This is kind of cool. We have True Tank, a tank level monitoring system. This is an awesome feature of these newer RVs, having all the different levels right there, easy to read. Let's go down here. This is a little bit hard to get to, but it's not too difficult. This is a bit shallow at first, but that's obviously for a good reason, because the door's right there and you have to have it pretty narrow. But all the way to the bottom there, a great little pantry space. Let's check this out. Yes, because of the sink, it can only open and use this little bit of space. Still nice to have that space utilized. Good for sponges and stuff. And down here, this one's a bit hard to open. Ah, this is smart. A nice trash bin setup. That's a very helpful feature, keeping things organized. Because honestly, that's probably the most important thing to keep clean and organized, is something that can stink and be gross. And then the next level down is just a normal drawer. Not quite sure what this would be used for, but just a good place to store stuff nonetheless. Over here, this is pretty shallow, but I think this would be good for utensils, both larger utensils and just normal kitchen utensils and cutlery. Down here we have a High Point microwave, pretty decent size. And below that, this is probably the best of these storage spaces yet. Could fit a lot down there. Right away, an interesting observation I have is that there is no oven, there's nothing gas, which is good or bad depending on how you look at it. I personally am not a huge fan of cooking with induction cooktops, but it does provide a very beautiful and streamlined look, and is easy to clean, and there's a lot of benefits. And I know some people also don't feel comfortable cooking with gas in an RV setting, especially since there doesn't seem to be tons of ventilation. Good time to pan up to the max air fan right there. But nonetheless, not everyone feels comfortable with that. So moving on from this part of the kitchen, we have this sort of transition area where this is sort of anything from a, area for your clothing, or obviously a pantry. I think most people would probably use it for pantry, or probably kind of a transition space where it's part pantry, part clothing storage, or whatever else you want to be storing. Up here, this is actually a pretty nice spot. Still a little bit limited with this curve in the roof. Not sure if you'd be able to fit something like a cereal box in here. That'd probably have to go in the lower down area, but still helpful space. Then over here we have the refrigerator and freezer. This is an interesting setup where it's a bottom freezer, which I feel like you don't see too often on especially RV fridges. You know, you sometimes see it in residential units with the pull-out, but not too common in this setup. Definitely not huge, not, you know, something you'd probably want at home, but for an RV, this is all you can really ask for. This is perfect. You know, plenty of space. You can have milk, you can have all the tall items, all the normal size items. This is actually a very interesting feature right here. This pass-through, I guess you'd call it. I'm not sure quite what you'd be using that for. If you have any ideas, please let me know. I guess that's kind of helpful if maybe you have, you know, something that's a bit taller than all this stuff. You know, for all the people who want to be carrying, you know, tons of baguettes, here you go. Nice and easy. We'll close that up. And similarly on the bottom, a nice space. Interesting how they cover over the bottom coils and have this pan down here. Not quite sure what that's for, if that's for maybe, you know, in case something leaks or maybe if you lose power so that things don't get too gross in here. Definitely an interesting system with these coils. And it's worth mentioning too, both top and bottom have these little lockouts, which is so helpful if you're on the road. Down here, I'm not sure if this is venting for heating or what, or if it's just for venting out the electronics that you have back here. So now to check out one of the parts that I think is always most interesting in an RV is the bathroom. This can be done really well or not so well. So let's check out this. Right away from the outside, I actually did not think this was a bathroom at first. I mean, obviously it has to be since, you know, there's not that much space, but this to me looks like, you know, a dresser in someone's bedroom, not a bathroom. We got, I believe it's plexiglass. It could be real glass. It's hard to tell unless I shatter it, which, you know, I'm looking to come back here again, so I'll avoid doing that. But we'll open that up. Interesting that you just cabinet material. It does kind of feel like actual glass, I must admit. I'll open both these up. This is a very interesting approach. We have a curtain here, which I think is going to be very important. And in here, it's definitely a bit tight. I definitely fit in height-wise, but it's not the most spacious. Let's be bold and close this up and see how that is. I'm not a fan of the cabinetry hardware they're using here. I think they could use something a lot nicer. Also, this is open, which, you know, not the biggest deal, but still, if you're gonna do this, you might as well have actual privacy. For that matter, even though it's, you know, frosted and can't really see through it, not the most private. Over here, it's all rather claustrophobic in here. We have this, move this out of the way, the mirror, which is nice, clips in there. Howdy. And then down here, we have a very, very small sink spot. I think that's the smallest sink I've ever seen on anything, including airplanes. And then we have up here, this is a common feature in these, where it's a combo between the sink faucet and shower head. Just move that down here so you can clean there. Two different modes. Put that back up there. Not too bad height-wise, you know, I'm moderately tall guy, so I think I can use this shower just fine. Another interesting feature here is the fact that it has these dispensers built in. Kind of nice if you want to just have a streamlined, easy, simple thing, especially since there's no shelves to keep things in here. Another one that's common, but is awesome, is the toilet paper cover. So sitting here on the John is actually not too uncomfortable. This is definitely just a fine setup. Still really not a fan of this whole door system. I think it's does not seem sturdy enough, especially for the price tag, which I'll cover in a little bit. But I think it could be a lot nicer for not much more money. Another feature here, having a little spot for your towel or whatever you want to carry, clothes. It's also worth mentioning that this is totally not waterproof here, which is why they give you this, a shower curtain. That's definitely a bit nicer for taking a shower or using the bathroom. It does sort of feel like it intrudes a little bit on your space. All right, now it's time to leave the bathroom. Pop that open. Step right out. So now we come to the back of this RV. This is the bed. It's interesting because it's sort of transitional, but it also isn't. You know, this is definitely not a passenger area, not DOT approved in any way. I don't see seatbelts. Yet it also sort of goes away. It's a bit peculiar. Down here we have a feature I quite like, which is this pass-through. Although that does not look especially sturdy. Despite that, it is a very nice feature to be able to get through to all the stuff down here. Obviously you have to actually crawl through to get a lot of stuff to be on the other side. But you know, if you have stuff that's right here, you want to access maybe blankets or extra cushions, it's not hard at all. Fitting here pretty easily. My feet do hit the end there, but that's not the biggest problem, especially since the width is pretty decent. You can go at a slight angle, or I guess go slightly higher up, although then my head starts going off the back. Over here, that's pretty cool. We got the button control for going up and down. That's probably one of the best features here. Also, you got this nice reading light. Also, a little night light feature. When you press it the first time, just that little bit turns on. This, I think, is all connected to another switch. And we have this feature again, which I'm still very confused about. I think it must just be a handle for getting yourself up and out of bed. Also, an additional light back here, which is not interested in coming on. But hey, so be it. Over there, probably one of the things that makes this most expensive, giant lithium-ion battery. We'll get to that in a little bit. So now getting up and out of bed, we've got a nice little step there as well. Let's check out what this is down here. This is all the fuses and everything, which is nice having pretty easy access to it in case something does pop or whatever. Down here we have a carbon monoxide and propane gas alarm, which is a very important feature to have. I'm actually not sure if that's required by law or not, but it's definitely a must-have in my book. Over here, we have another one of these controls. And you can see here that all the different levels, which is a feature I really love. Smart 2 is a house battery and a chassis battery, showing them separately. Good thing I had no interest in going on a test drive because I don't think I'd be able to at all. Over here, we'll get to the awning in a little bit as well. But nice being able to turn lights on and off. Gets quite dark immediately. Over here we have a charging center, which I would prefer to have on a little shelf over in this area. You do have plugs, which is nice, but you don't actually have a spot for your cell phone, so you have to put it somewhere over here and then maybe store it there. Not quite sure. Also, you have these screw open windows back here. They don't open that much, but it's still very nice to have a nice breeze come through. Especially with that max air fan, you almost might be able to avoid AC use on some of the hotter days just by having a really good airflow. And of course, screens as well, which makes it doable. This just pulls right down. I think that's almost a full blackout. Definitely acceptable. Speakers is another nice feature. Assuming it connects to the TV. Now let's check out what we got up here. This is pretty fun. This is all the controls for the TV. We got, you know, DVD, Blu-ray, all that kind of stuff, and more plugins. Over here, more storage space. This is probably all used for clothing. Back here, not too much bigger, but you can still fit a decent amount of stuff back there. And the same over here. We got another fire alarm right there. And then up here we have a Dometic AC. So now that we've checked out the back and the front, let's go around to the trunk and check that out. So coming around back here, you can see all the shades we've got. Just gotta open this up. I like that feature there where the light turns on when you open it up. This is probably one of the best features here, is this giant lithium-ion battery, like I mentioned earlier. I'm not quite sure, it's 600 amp hours. Not quite sure what that exactly means for usability, but you know, having lithium-ion is a huge game changer when it comes to usability. Looking underneath here, you can see the, I believe, aluminum construction, and also there's some venting back here, which is a nice feature. Nice to keep it not too stuffy back here. We have this nice durable material, and I'm not quite sure what's in here. Looks like blackouts for the front, and of course more carpeting. Overall, not a whole lot to see back here, but a lot of space. It's a huge trunk to have. Close this back up. So time to wrap up with this Coachmen Galleria. Overall, very nice. I think a good choice for a lot of people, but I think this definitely suffers from the RV flimsiness with a lot of stuff. You know, it's obviously well put together and will function very nicely, but there's just a certain cheapness to some of the materials and the fit and finish. I think it's why I really appreciated that Gresh RV I checked out. Also, not a huge fan of this bathroom. Really think it could be a lot nicer. It's really mostly just these, you know, from here outbound, you know, with the doors. I think that part really does not do well enough. Obviously this is easy to change and improve, but I think that should be better from the factory. Overall, it's a very nice chassis, but I think it lacks a lot of stuff. I think one of the biggest selling points is definitely this lithium battery. But I think if you're looking for something like this, it's a pretty decent choice. What must be mentioned though is the price. This one is $204,000. Granted, the base price is $159,000, which I think is still a bit high for what this is. I think with this build quality and everything, I would prefer to have this price more like maybe just over 100, you know, 100 to 115 maybe. And then with $45,000 in upgrades, that's a lot. I think that for this price, something like the Gresh RV, or you know, I have to check out the Winnebago, but I think that there's better options out there, even despite the lithium battery back there. But I will let you guys be the judge. What do you think about the value on this particular RV, and would this be something you're interested in? Either way, much thanks to Giant RV for letting me come film this. I hugely appreciate this opportunity, and always fun checking out these rigs. That being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I totally appreciate it. If you could please like and subscribe and share it with someone who might appreciate it as well, that would be just so awesome. This channel is still in its infancy, and any help would be much appreciated.